I'm pleased to now introduce Katie Marschilok. She's an RN, MSN, but she's also a retired Army nurse. Today, she's joining us to share her own journey with intestinal failure. It began in 2017. Katie has not succeeded, like several of us, in discovering the cause for her GI motility disorder, but she has learned how to live a full life dependent on home tube feeding, home IV nutrition, or a combination of both. Welcome, Katie.
Thank you, Beth. And thank you so much for having me. I'm really honored to be here today. Let's see. Okay, we go. So my journey into intestinal failure started in 2018. And so it's been 4 years now. And I'd say a lot has changed in those 4 years. I think the real challenge in living with any chronic illness is to find a way to live your best, your fullest life with what you have. And I have had some really great examples in my life of people important to me who've been able to do that. First was my children. Two of them developed type 1 diabetes, and they were already diagnosed with celiac that I'm sure many of you out there can relate to. But then they were diagnosed with type 1 diabetes. And my husband and I made it our mission to help them come through life in the best way possible, to really keep their chronic illnesses in their place and help them live healthy lives with it and live the normal lives that children want to live. And I think they very much succeeded in that. They're both in their 40s and have lived long and healthy times with their chronic illnesses. And that's really been one of my inspirations. On any day that I'm feeling a little bit down about myself, I think, look at my kids as an example and do what they did and I'll be okay. And another great example for me is my sister-in-law. Her name is Madeline. And she died within the last year after a 10-year journey with ALS. And it really seemed like the more challenged she got physically, the stronger she got mentally. And she was very inspirational to everyone in her family, as well as people across the country with ALS. She was a wonderful advocate. So again, if I'm feeling having a tough day for myself, I think of these examples in my life, and it's really, really helped me. And I always have had the hope that there's something that could make my situation a little better. And in the beginning of my journey, I really fought to find the reason why my motility disorder, GI motility disorder, happened. And I think in the back of my mind, I thought, if I knew why, then maybe they could fix it. Well, I've moved on from that. And in my world right now, it's so much doesn't matter why. And I realize it probably can't be fixed, but there might be something that can improve it a bit. And even any little improvement is great. And then the other thing is, I really found that my attitude about it is the thing that I can control that can improve it. One of the things that in my year, when my children were diagnosed with diabetes, following that, I drove my nursing career into that direction and became a diabetes educator. And one of my favorite patients from way back when said, well, what you have to do when you deal with a child with diabetes is create a new normal. So here's a little snippet of what my new normal looks like. Part of one of the rooms in my house, of course, is dedicated to my supplies. And then part of me creating a new normal has been, okay, not only do I try to manage my supplies well, but I also try to organize them well and organize them in the way that I can quickly set myself up, create healthy routines, create the real best practices for my daily routines and care to make sure that it's easy, that things are easy to get to. And what you see on the screen on the right is an example of me setting stuff up the night before for the next day, that sort of thing. I get a problem with very low blood sugars if I run TPN overnight and I'm without it during the day. So much of my infusion time is during the day. So when I take it down, I set it up for the next thing. The other thing is to become really expert at it. In the beginning, I remember it being a bit overwhelming. When I started on my home parenteral nutrition, I arrived home from the hospital after a really rough day, exhausting day. And at the end of over 2-week hospitalization, and I was exhausted. And the home care nurse came to teach me everything at 6:30 at night. And by the time she left, I was in tears. It was terrible. But it got a little better every day as I worked hard to create this new normal. And the more expert you get, the easier it gets. And Oley can be such a help with that. And actually, for the people with central lines and people keeping all that going, as all of you are out there, the next 2 sessions of this conference today are very much going to be helpful in that. So one of the things I did in my a couple of hospitalizations I've had, and I've used the time to sit and go through all of the old archived Oley conference sessions and educational sessions. And there's so much out there that really can help you. So whatever piece of it you don't feel expert at, go and look for help. It's out there. And then control what you can. Part of me keeping track of my stuff and setting everything up the day before and, trying to make myself the ultimate expert at it is I can't control that I have this issue. I can't control that I need parenteral nutrition every single day and all of the above, but I can control that I take good care of it and control what you can and really, really feel good about that. But the concept of creating a new normal really helped me. And fortunately, I had the blessing of learning that over 20 years ago from one of the favorite patient families that I dealt with, dealing with their child with a chronic illness. Another choice to make is I've chosen this, and I've gone online and read lots of chat groups and things of people with intestinal failure. And I know for many people, it's very difficult to sit at the table and enjoy a meal with family, friends, and enjoy a holiday meal. And, that's the piece of it that's very, very hard for them. So I kind of early on figured out that for me, I can still kind of enjoy the sights and smells of good food. Now, ironically, the sights and smells of food that I never liked during my eating time of my life still doesn't appeal to me, and I try to stay away from it. But the sights and smells of food that I like is just great to be around. It's okay. And that I can't have it really doesn't bother me. But I don't want to miss what you see here. This is my husband is the one right across from me. The one in the front of the very front of the screen is one of my brothers. And we're on a trip together and just having a great time. And if I'm not willing to sit at the table at a restaurant or sit at the table at a family event, then I'm missing all the conversation and all the love and camaraderie that's there. So I've really made that choice as part of my new normal I always want a chair at the table. I don't want a plate. I don't want anything else, but I want a chair. And that's very important to me. And I think one of the things that helped me in this endeavor too, to transition in this way is as this was starting up for me, my youngest grandchild was born. And everyone out there who's had a new baby in the house knows that as soon as the parents sit down and put the first forkful to their lips, especially on a holiday, that the baby cries. So that was always my time to have the baby to myself and, give the parents a chance to eat. So that helped my transition, I would say, into I like mealtime again, because that was my special time with the baby. Now he's all grown up and he's 4 years old and I can't do that anymore, but it's just find a little way to make what's difficult for you better. And that's one of the things I did about about the table and the eating thing. So one of the big things for me too has been, that's helped me in my coping, is to have a goal, have a reach goal, and then really, really go for it. And it takes a lot to get from the slide on the left here. This was the end of February 2019. And, you know, it was a rough hospitalization. And this was all I needed to get through the day, was on all those, hanging on that IV pole there. And it was really only about 30 days later that I went from my transition from enteral feeding to parenteral feeding during that hospitalization. But then about 32 days later, I was here. And that was kind of fulfilling one of my husband's bucket list dreams. He's an engineer and he had to see all the wonders of the world. And one of the big ones on his list was the pyramids in Egypt. That trip had been planned 2 years prior, paid for, organized and all of that. And here I was, you know, 32 days earlier, hooked up to all those IVs, and I couldn't imagine going. We had the discussion: you'll go without me, I won't be able to go. No, I won't. Yes, you will, da, da, da. And finally it came to, okay, a couple weeks into it, I figured, well, maybe I can go. And it took a village. It took wonderful support from my infusion company, amazing support and help from my physician, my dietitian, and members of my family, and certainly my husband and our travel companions. But I fortunately was able to make the trip of a lifetime about 32 days after being in the state hooked up to everything. So it was a challenge, but I did it, and I'm so glad I did. And one of the kind of funny things about it was, so who would have thought 32 days after being just initiating on the brand new newbie on parenteral nutrition, that I could be riding a camel in Egypt in front of the pyramids? Who would have thought? But one of the kind of funny things about it, we traveled with 3 other couples. So there were 8 of us all together in our small group as part of the big group. And of the 8 of us, not my husband or myself, but the 6 other people, each one of them had a down day that they had to stay back at the hotel or the cruise ship and not go out and not leave their room/bathroom because of feeling sick in a GI way. And my husband and I sailed through just fine for the whole time. But again, I think in my case, it was, I not only had my parenteral nutrition, but I had the extra fluids. I didn't eat or drink a thing, and I came through just fine. And my husband, he has celiac disease, and he was ultra careful to not touch or eat anything that was not prepared in a very pristine way. And so he just didn't take any chances out in the community, and he did fine. And many of the days we were there, it was 105 degrees. So even the heat is what brought people down. But me with my extra IV fluids and my physician and dietitian instructions on here's about how much you'll need, da, da, da. It was amazing. So very proud of my husband and myself for that part. And I do think the irony is that we made it better than all our healthier people with us. But when you reach a goal like that, you work hard and you achieve a goal like that, then other goals are easier. And subsequent trips later to Yellowstone Park and other places, many other places we've gone since then, have been easier, much easier. And I view them as not a big deal. And then the other piece of it is even the day-to-day is easier. The getting through the day on a normal week that you're just home doing your normal thing, that's even easier because of what you've achieved. And one of the things that can make it easier, really, is if you ask for help when you need it, and don't be afraid to ask for help, and also accept help that's offered. I am not the kind of person who easily asks for help. I really try to soldier through myself instead. And there are times that I realize I could have, should have, would have asked for help. And here's kind of one of them. The picture on the right is my best friend in life for my whole life. And she noticed that, gee, I get tired with the hiking, the walking, all sorts, we're traveling. And actually, these two pictures are on a trip that we took this summer to Germany, Austria, and Hungary. And my friend Denise, if you notice, she has the backpack on and she's standing right next to me. Now she's carrying my parental nutrition backpack, and it's her idea. Here, I can walk right next to you. Let me carry that for you. Oh my gosh, that's heavy. How much does it weigh? It weighs 12 pounds at the beginning of the day, and then it lightens up. And then when I put the new bag on, it's 12 pounds again. So, oh no, I'll carry it for you. And she just made sure that when we were getting on, getting off, once we, got on or off any transportation mode, that she would grab the bag and walk right next to me step in step. And one of the things we did was we're hiking up along the long thing of stairs to go up to a really high place to see some really neat things. And this is my brother. And who would think that he could so easily walk in step with me? And he did a great job. Now, the irony of it is my husband tries to do that, and he's not quite as good at it as my friend or my brother. But I would not have asked for that help, but it was offered. So I took it. And what a difference. I felt freer. I felt so more easily able to hike up the stairs. And what thing I'm really proud of is my brother is 10 years younger than me. I'm 68, he's 58, and he's a marathon runner. He's in incredible physical shape. And I obviously am not, but he was very impressed with how I could hike up flights and flights of stairs and keep up, and what I could physically do, because he didn't imagine I'd be able to do the things that we did during this trip. So I wouldn't have been able to do that without the help. So you think of something that would make your life a little easier. Swallow your trepidation over asking for help and ask for help. And if someone kind, good person offers help, then take it. It's just a beautiful thing when people offer help that you don't even think you need. So one of the things I've really looked for too, that's helped me tremendously, is I've tried to find gratitude and look for inspiration. And a couple of the real things that have inspired me have been the home parental nutrition pioneers. And I've really enjoyed reading about them. The Dr. Stanley Dutrek, who started the whole concept of parental nutrition, home parental nutrition with the lines and everything. And I had the pleasure of several times meeting Dr. Lynn Howard. And I read about Clarence Oldenburg and together them founding this organization. And really, me being a person who was involved in healthcare and involved in chronic illness organizations, it's unheard of, an organization that everything is absolutely free to the patient, and you can partake of all of the educational opportunities later at your own leisure, at your own time, and everything is free. And to go to the conferences is free. Me going to the conference in Chicago a couple of years ago, shortly after starting the IV nutrition, was life-altering for me, meeting people for the first time, walking the path I walk and learning from them. It's just amazing. And I read in a newsletter the other day, a NutriShare newsletter, about a woman who's been on TPN for 50 years. I mean, that's so inspiring for me. If she can do it, you and I can do it too. And I really am so appreciative of those pioneers. Also, the providers who take care of us. I have the real great fortune of the physician, who's my main GI physician, did a fellowship with Dr. Lynn Howard early in his career. And I'm benefiting from that, fortunately. But my dietitians, my nurses, different people who've taken care of me, and the people who pack my supplies from the home care company too. I mean, the pharmacists, all these people, I have such gratitude for what they do for me and for all of us. And I'm also inspired by them, totally. And one of the things that really became inspirational for me was when I went to the Oley National Conference in Chicago, the last in-person conference before the pandemic. And I saw the groups of little children with their little backpacks, and some of them had the tubing. You could tell they were on enteral nutrition, and some of them you could tell they were on parenteral nutrition by the way their tubing was coming at where it was emanating from, and that they were just running around playing and having fun with each other and just being kids. And it was very reminiscent to me of my children growing up with diabetes. And I did a lot of advocacy work and work on support groups with children's groups, and not only my children, but the other ones I knew over the years. So it just gave me the, wow, these little children are just living a full life with this. If they can do it, I can do it. So I found them very inspiring. And I have a lot of gratitude too for the people who love me and help me. It's not easy to be around me and love me and help me, I don't think, but fortunately I do have a beautiful family who is that. And the other real inspiring thing for me is this beautiful little girl here is my 6.5-year-old granddaughter. And she developed diabetes when she was 5. So, and when I was in the midst of all this, that's when she developed diabetes. So it's like, wow, I have to be the example for her and of living a full life with what I've got, because she's just a little kid living a full life with what she's got. So I guess the last part of my message is pay it forward, be the best you can be, and be the example for those who follow after you, be it with an illness like you have or with something else. So many of us have something. And I just do feel so lucky that I can strive to be the positive example for my beautiful little granddaughter with diabetes, and that's her dad who has it, and this is the rest of the family. But I do feel fortunate to have Oley in my life, to have in my life who I have. So I wish you all the very, very best, and thanks so much for having me today.